Okay.
Hey, good morning, everyone, or good close to afternoon. I muted everyone. Please know that you can use the chat feature or come off mute to prevent any feedback. So I muted everyone. And given just the last couple of people coming in, just a second to get in, and we will get started in about 30 seconds. All right, Joanne, I believe we'll go ahead and get started. Hey, good morning again. My name is Henry LaFollette. I serve as the ESEA Oversight Coordinator for the department. And I have with me today Joanne.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Joanne Runyon. I am the Middle Tennessee ESEA Oversight Coordinator for the Department of Education.
Thank you, Joanne. We're very excited to be here with you today to talk about parent and family engagement and the resources that we've developed by the department for your use, and to provide examples of best practices in parent and family engagement for you. Next slide. You guys see our strategic plan slide, and I know you guys see this at every presentation, but I want you to take a particular note this morning to the best for all slide, the main slide there on the left. It says we will set all students on a path to success. I want you to just take about 10 seconds to think what that means to you and what it means in this work that we're about to present to you. With me, this is exactly what these resources and the information we're going to provide you today on parent-family engagement will accomplish. When parent-family engagement is completed correctly, it targets all three of these areas in our strategic plan in academics, student readiness, and educators. On our agenda for today, we will start with a very brief overview of some of the research focused on parent-family engagement. We'll spend time discussing some of the changes that occurred in parent and family engagement under ESEA. We'll provide some tips for documenting your work with stakeholders, and finally, we'll dig into some of the new resources that the department recently released for you. We have a lot to cover, so again, if you'll hold your questions till the end, we will appreciate that. So you'll first see that we're going to talk a little bit about research today. Many LEAs have worked very diligently to be up to date with research around family engagement. When schools and families work together, students benefit. And more specifically, when the work focuses on academics and learning, the benefits to students greatly increase. And we see an actual increase in all achievement. Everyone here today can agree the true engagement with families means that it is a collaborative relationship where power is shared and everyone plays a role and is aware of what their role should be. And that's really the ultimate goal for Title I parent and family engagement, for everyone to understand what their role is and how they can fulfill it. So that's what I hope these tools will help with, making sure communication between school and home is clear and meaningful.
Thank you, Henry. So now we're going to go ahead and look at some LEA requirements. And these are some basic LEA requirements as we, as our LEAs, our directors and our LEAs work with Title I Part A. Under ESEA for Title I Part A, it is required that LEAs, local educational agencies, conduct outreach to all parents and family members and implement programs, activities, and procedures for the involvement of parents and family members. So these programs, activities, and procedures shall be planned and implemented with meaningful consultation with parents of participating children. So as we walk through this presentation, we'll take a look at what this meaningful consultation and meaningful participation looks like as we involve families with the work that LEAs are doing, as well as at the local schools. Another part of LEA Basic Requirements is each LEA that receives more than $500,000 in Title I Part A funds shall reserve at least 1% of its allocation to assist schools to carry out parent engagement activities. So for our directors that are on the line that are directly working with your consolidated funding applications, you will notice that if your allocations for Title I Part A are larger than $500,000, it is more than likely, and it's likely that you, when you move over to your district set aside page, you will see an amount there that needs to be reserved that is 1% of that total allocation. And more than, of course, 90% of those funds will need to be distributed to the schools with priority there. So that is something very important to note. We do have LEAs that may not receive that large amount of money, but they are still making those efforts to have a set aside for the parent and family engagement. And they do that through their budget, through other forms as well. So funds reserved by an LEA should be used to carry out activities, strategies that are consistent with the LEA's parent and family engagement policy. And in a few slides here, we'll take a look at what those activities might look like. Parents and family members of children receiving services shall be involved in the decision-making regarding how the funds are reserved and how they are allotted for parental involvement in the activities. So LEA and parent family engagement funds must be used for at least one of the following activities. So as you notice here on this slide, there are 5 areas that are some examples. In that first area, we're looking at supporting schools and training school staff regarding engagement strategies. So this might look like a liaison that the LEA has decided to hire or to work with. This liaison may be the connection with the community to the school, but it's also providing the school educators with some professional development as far as what those characteristics and look-fors might be that may be a need with the families that are being served by the school system. Another area is supporting programs that reach families at home. So this once again might be perhaps a liaison or a designated person at the school who is involved in doing some of those check-ins with students should there be some medical fragility there, some other instances taking place, so that we ensure that those families are also still being connected to what is happening at the school and that these students are receiving the academic services or perhaps some non-academic wraparound services that may be needed there. Another area is disseminating information on best practices that focus on engagement, especially for increasing the engagement of economically disadvantaged families. So these might be things like parent nights, literacy nights, some parent workshops that districts might have in place or have thought about. Providing sub-grants to schools to collaborate with community-based organizations or businesses that have a track record of improving family engagement. It may be a need in your LEA that you might need to work with somebody in the community to help with some mental health support, perhaps working with an agency to develop a school-to-home closet or a food bank for some of the families, things of that nature. Engaging in any other activities as well that the LEA believes are appropriate. And so one thing to keep in mind here is to think about the needs that your LEA may have that are unique to your area. And some of those areas, if they involve making connections with families, this is a good way to use some of those funds to support you in these areas. So as we look at additional LEA requirements, an LEA that receives Title I Part A funds shall develop jointly with, agree on with, and distribute to parents and family members of participating children a written parent and family engagement policy. And it's always a good idea to keep these up to date and ensure that we're involving all stakeholders that are necessary to this policy to ensure that we're meeting those yearly unique needs that may come about. I'm sure you're all thinking about this past year with COVID and all the challenges that it brought. So there might be some revisions there as far as how to support the families based on perhaps some of the events that have taken place. What is required in the LEA parent and family engagement policy? Well, at a minimum, the policy must describe how the LEA will involve parents and family members in the joint development of the plan, provide the support necessary to assist schools in implementing an effective family and engagement activity that will improve student performance, conduct an annual evaluation. And this one's very important. We always want to make sure that we're measuring what that effectiveness looks like as we implement something in the school or within the LEA. Ensuring that we are including all groups that are represented in the school. So perhaps you might have some individuals that work with English language proficiency, support specific student groups. So it's always important to think about those stakeholders that can be part of that school collaboration and LEA collaboration. It also involves families in school activities, which may include establishing an advisory board to develop, revise, and review an engagement policy. So these might be PAC committees. These might be a committee that comes together to address literacy, if that's one of your goals at your school, thinking about what those needs are. It may be that LEAs have specific advisory committees that do involve parents and may involve a student as that as well, since they are the ones that are receiving these supports in the classroom. So it's always good to get their feedback as well. This now brings us to school requirements.
Thank you, Joanne. As Joanne described while talking about the LEA's responsibility for the district level parent and family engagement plan, you will see many similarities in the school level parent and family engagement plan as well. Many times you have principals ask, why has this got to be completed? We have included the ESEA citation here in this presentation, and you may share it with them and let them know that, as a federal requirement in receiving funds, receiving those funds is contingent upon the completion of those federal requirements. So what are the requirements for the school level? Each school served under Title I Part A shall jointly develop with and distribute to parents and family members of participating children a written parent and family engagement policy agreed on by such parents that shall describe the means of carrying out those requirements of the ESEA 1116, C through F. Parents shall also be notified of the policy in an understandable and uniform format in a language that parents can understand, and such policy shall be made available to local community and updated periodically to meet the changing needs of parents and the school. A highlight here would be you notice the changing needs of parents and schools. So one is equal to the other when it comes to updating and changing these policies. Next slide. So what is required? The school parent family engagement policy contains a bit more information. The school policy must describe how the school will conduct an annual meeting, offer a flexible number of meetings, involve families in the development, evaluation, and revision of the parent and family engagement policy. Policy must describe how the school will provide timely information about the school's curriculum, assessment, and expected levels of achievement, and how the school will jointly develop with families a school parent compact. So how do you ensure that the LEA and schools include all the required information? Well, we've created some great tools to help you with that, and Joanne will be sharing those with you when we cover our resources available to you in just a few moments. On your school parent compact, what's required? Please note that there were no major changes to the compact under the reauthorization of ESEA. The school has to jointly develop this with parents, share that responsibility, and build and develop a partnership. So what's it mean to jointly develop? Does this mean the principal and the staff develops this and sends it out at the beginning of the year to be signed? Does it mean the principal takes a look at and decides that it looks good for this year, no updates are needed? I think we all know better than that in this meeting. Schools should identify a team of school leaders, parents, and students to meet, review, and develop the school parent compact. How many times should they meet? I would say maybe quarterly would be a best practice, but at a minimum of at least once with sign-in sheets, agendas, and notes taken to support that this step has been completed. And Joanne will be covering requirements of documentation in just a little bit. So what is required in the school parent compact? It needs to describe the school's responsibility to provide high quality curriculum and instruction in a supportive and effective learning environment that enables the children served under this part to meet the challenging state academic standards, and the ways in which each family will be responsible for supporting their children's learning, volunteering in their child's classroom, and participating as appropriate in decisions relating to the education of the children and positive use of extracurricular time. I'd like to point out this should be data-driven. and could even be broken down to individual grade levels. What a kindergartner student may need will have a different need than what a fourth grade student may need. It could cause extra work on the group's part, but I would encourage the schools when they're making these planning teams to include parents of all grade levels and take those into consideration. This also addresses the importance of communication and between teachers and parents on an ongoing basis through, at a minimum, parent-teacher conferences, frequent reports about the children's progress being sent home, reasonable access to staff, opportunities to volunteer and participate in the child's class, and observation and classroom activities. This one, I know that COVID has an effect on that right now, and ensuring regular two-way meaningful communication between family members and school staff. I know this will look different for all parties due to the COVID pandemic, but I've noticed with my own student in Sevier County, they're doing a much better job, or an excellent job actually, receiving meaningful and frequent communications from teachers. It seems since the COVID outbreak that not only have the teachers sent home more communications, but also the school in general. And I think this is, talking with colleagues across the state, this is happening all across the state. And know that the state of Tennessee appreciates it, and more importantly, as a parent, I appreciate what these teachers and staffs are doing to communicate with me. It's also important to note that signing compacts is completely optional. To me, it's actually a bit of a waste of time. Just because someone signs something, it certainly doesn't mean that they're going to follow through with it. Is much more effective to treat this compact as a tool for stronger communication and partnership rather than a contract. And we get to the annual meeting. Each school receiving Title I Part A funds is required to convene an annual meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to inform parents and families of the school's participation in the Title I program and the right of families to be involved. Please note that the annual meeting for school-wide programs should include all of the parents and families of a Title I Part A school, while the annual meeting for targeted assisted programs should target and include only the families of the students identified to receive those Title I Part A services. Federal law states that this meeting should be separate, but the state of Tennessee has given you the power to hold this meeting in conjunction with another meeting. This meeting is supposed to take place at the beginning of the year, and many districts utilize this to have it in conjunction with their open house or back to school bash. Please note, if you have in conjunction with another meeting, to please keep separate sign-in sheets for both. And I know Joanne will go over this in a few moments as well. So what is required during that annual meeting? The annual meeting should address at a minimum an explanation of that Title I Part A program. It includes an explanation of the school's curriculum, information on the forms of academic assessment used to measure student progress, and information on the proficiency level students are expected to meet. This is where you set your goals for the year and lay them out to your parents and get them to buy into your system and what you have set forth to better develop their child's academic needs. You should also talk about your Title I Part A 1% set aside and the family's role in determining the distribution of these funds, such as parent and family engagement nights, or any other parent and family involvement opportunities. Parents should be instrumental in the development of these possibilities. The LEA and school parent and family engagement policy, you should present it and discuss it and let them know they can be a part of the development of that policy in the coming year, as well as the school parent compact and the rights of families to be involved and how they can support their child's learning.
So now this brings us to documenting your work with stakeholders. So parent engagement and involvement in school policies and in school happenings has always been around. It's always been part of the law. But under ESEA, the ESEA really emphasizes having different groups at the table that are advocating, providing information, also providing that involvement based on the community of the school and the LEA. So when we look at stakeholder involvement, when do stakeholders need to be involved? Well, let's look at a few areas here that we have on the slide. So stakeholder involvement is required when working on district plans, school plans, LEA parent and family engagement policies, school parent and family engagement policies, as well as school and parent compacts. So it's always important to keep in mind of what the unique needs are for your LEA and your individual schools to really know who those stakeholders are who need to be involved. So what stakeholders do need to be involved? So let's think about who makes up the school community, the LEA community. We have school leaders, teachers, parents and family members, students. This might be a best practice that a school may follow. You may have a student body that's very active when it comes to school matters, procedures, policies, happenings. It's always nice to have that best practice there to involve their input as well. Plus, this also prepares them if they are seeking some type of future in some, public speaking or wherever they'd like to take their little careers after they leave secondary education there. Community members, thinking back to those supports that might be needed by the LEA or individual schools. These might be community members that support with your CTE programs. These may be folks that help with providing food, perhaps at a local food bank, services for your families who may have limited English proficiency. These might be services as well as far as, from school to community coat closet, things of that nature. So these folks would be crucial to the development of policies and procedures that are part of the LEA and the individual school needs there. So statute does require that these folks are involved here, and to also think of the additional roles that may be needed there to support any processes and procedures and policies. So when building your teams, really think about your partners. Think about who all is contributing to student learning. This may be highly academic areas, but at the same time, you all know that during this time, and even previous to the pandemic, there have been several districts that have a very high need when looking at the non-academic part of learning. So look at those folks that support mental health awareness, mental health supports, interventionists, perhaps other agencies that help with counseling sessions. These are all very supportive roles that are needed when we think about what supports all the areas of need for students in an LEA or individual school. So documenting your work, and Henry made some really good points about this. Anytime this engagement takes place, think about how work is being documented. Here are some tips for documenting work with key stakeholders. Creating sign-in sheets for all meetings that include the space where the meeting took place, have a field for the participant name, the role of the participant, what else am I missing here? No, so ensuring that all those different areas are included on these sign-in sheets. And Henry did mention that there may be times where you might have two meetings that may take place at an evening at a school. Please ensure that your sign-in sheets are able to tell what folks were involved in what part of the meeting and what folks were involved in another part of the meeting, so that it is clearly defined that if you had an evening where you had your Title I meeting and perhaps you also had a teacher's night, that it is specifically stated there that the meeting also involved those Title I needed requirements. And these were all the participants that were involved. You want to make sure that that's really detailed there as well. Some more tips for documenting your work with stakeholders: saving all meeting and event invitations. So these might be flyers, perhaps a printout of an email that was sent. Perhaps if you have a social media account that you use to communicate with parents in the community, taking snapshots of the announcement or the invitation. If you use Facebook, Twitter, things of that nature, ensuring that that is somehow captured as evidence. Creating and saving detailed agendas. Once again, if there's going to be a combination of happenings in one evening, ensuring that there is a detailed agenda for each one that shows what topics were covered. So for the Title I meeting, you talked about the requirements of Title I, what is Title I, the school parent compact is listed, ensuring that those details are clearly defined there on the agenda. Of course, we want to keep the minutes of meetings and events to document discussion, ideas, and suggestions. This is also another great way to take in feedback. You can always go back to those recordings if it's done virtually, just in case we need to rehear some ideas that were shared perhaps. And also remembering one key thing here, as we get our stakeholders involved, ensuring that we do have meaningful participation from each group. And this bullet here really points out something very important. Remembering that school employees who are also parents cannot be counted as true parent representatives. Yes, they can be part of that because they do play a dual role. They perhaps might be a teacher and they also have students, so they're very highly invested in the work there at the school. But also ensure that other parents who perhaps are not direct school employees or LEA employees have the opportunity to be representatives on a school team or a committee. This is very important. So now let's take a look at some resources that are available. One resource that we do have available located in ePlan TDOE resources is the Parent and Family Engagement Policy Guide. This is also available on the department website. There is a website that is dedicated to these resources as well as its main landing page. You will see the guide here, and this guide provides tools that can be edited, information that can be very useful, tips, some engagement activities to allow for that successful parent and family engagement. The guide includes templates, as mentioned, that cover all federal requirements. There are templates as well for the school level policy. And most importantly, the templates can be edited to meet the needs of each individual school or specific needs that may need to be in place by the LEA. The School Parent Compact Toolkit outlines a step-by-step process for creating an effective school parent compact. It's a very interactive tool. There are numerous tips here as well, tips and tools to make the process simple. And it also includes several compact templates. So there are options here just in case you were thinking about, revamping or revising what you might already have in place, or perhaps you just want to see what's available. This can be very helpful as well. This is also located in TDOE resources, and it is also located on the main landing page for the Tennessee Department of Education's Parent and Family Engagement webpage. Here's an example of what the compact template and example looks like. One of the examples in the toolkit. You notice that there is a space for what is a school home compact. So informing our parents, if you have new parents that are just enrolling their kindergartners or pre-K, to make them aware of what this is, what activities are in place to build partnerships, how the compact is jointly developed. Also communication about student learning. Perhaps you're very proud about what takes place specifically in your school. You have some additional supports and programs. You have a certain way of doing things and you really want your community and your parents to know about this. That would be a great place there to include that. There's a section for school goals. And know that this is unique to what you want to present to your community, your schools, and your parents. You can include goals here. Perhaps you have a goal for attendance, you have a goal for reading, mathematics, or a school for building character, goal for building character. You might have that presented there. You might have some goals and some needs that are presented in the classroom. Perhaps some areas to engage parents and guardians as to what can be done at home to support the educational process there of their child. And of course, you might have an area that highlights students. Perhaps you have some announcements that go out about student involvement there that's available in the LEA or in the school. So here is an example of on the right-hand side of what that might look like. And remember, this is just an example, and you can edit this to make it unique to the needs in your school. There are some annual Title I meeting resources. There is a PowerPoint that is available that is also editable for the needs of the LEA in schools to ensure all federal requirements are met. Templates also include optional slides to help engage in important discussions that are focused around parent and family engagement. So a few tips there as well. And all the resources that you've seen here on this slide as well are available in TDOE resources, as well as that main landing page for the Department of Education. Some additional resources that you will see are a Q&A document as far as what is required, what you will need for your meetings, what is needed to document your work, sample meeting protocols and agendas, a meeting flyer template, meeting sign-in sheet templates, as well as a meeting evaluation form example is also available. So at this part of our presentation, we are now at the part where we're going to open up the platform for questions. So what questions do we have at this time? As we looked at all the different requirements, what is required under ESEA Title I, what's required under the LEA, the school level, all the resources, what are some questions that we might have at this time? Please feel free to unmute your line and ask those questions aloud or drop the questions into the chat. Also, we welcome comments. If something is working really well in your LEA and you found some of these resources to be helpful, please share. Or simply, if you're proud about how you're doing some meetings and how you're inviting folks and how you're getting a good turnout, this is also a good time to share with all the directors we have on this session with us today.
Joanne, just to add to that, we did have a question a little earlier I want to share with everyone, and that was the annual Title I meeting. Can that be conducted virtually again this year? With the spike in COVID cases and the Delta variant, we do accept you to do the annual Title I meeting virtually this year, but we do ask that you offer it in person if at all possible, and do it in both forms. I just wanted to throw that out there during this question and answer time. And I know we have many directors on here, and I always love my East Tennessee directors, but I'll just tell you, I'm partial to all directors across the state, and I've come to know them for monitoring, and not to say that when I was working with IDEA, I didn't like them as well, but I'm really partial to these ESEA directors, and I know they've got a lot of questions and a lot of insight. And I know Brother Lynn Dotson over there, he always has some insight as well. So anybody feel free to unmute or add to the chat. And while you're doing that, Joanne's going to advance the next slide, and we have a link for our survey. We encourage you to provide us feedback on anything that we could have did better today, and we seriously use this feedback to shape and form our future meetings with you all, and we take this feedback very seriously. So please provide your feedback to us today. And with that, Joanne, just actually, if your phone doesn't like the QR code, you put the link for the feedback link in the chat. So please take your time today to do that. And with that, I'll go silent, and I'll just wait and see if there's any questions, and then we will release some of your time back.
Thank you, Henry. Any comments, anyone? Any questions that we might have at this time?
All right, I take silence as golden, and we would like to release the rest of your time back today. Thank you for attending this session.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning, and for some folks, it might be afternoon as well. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.